So today I'm going to go over some different charting options with some tools that are available online. These are some of the more advanced charting options. There are easier tools like Wordle and Chartle, and you can explore those on your own. But these really use your knowledge of JavaScript to allow you to create and customize charts. So the first one is chart.js. And there are tons of examples on here and documentation on their site. And if we go to the actual homepage of their site, you can download from the GitHub. So I'll go to that. And you can download the entire zip file from the GitHub. And when you do that, you will have access to their samples. And so there's a whole bunch of samples here, one for each of the 6 types of charts. And I've got one of them open here, this bar chart. So you can see what they did. They have where the chart actually gets inserted on the page, and it's using the canvas element, which is an HTML5 element that most modern browsers understand. And then in the script area, they have a variety of options for your data set. So this is a bar chart that we're going to create. And I modified the file that I got from the sample because they were using this random scaling factor to just pump random numbers into here. And you, of course, would not do that. And so if we do that, if you put your own numbers in the data, you don't need this function up here to do the random scaling. So basically, they've got the ability to create the chart variable, and you include your labels as the first option. So in this case, there are several months, and you could continue with more months of the year. And then your data sets that have several options associated with them for the fill color and things like that. Then you actually get to your data. And the data here is the data that you would want in each number. So in this case, we might be looking at 2 different years, say January of 2012 and January of 2013, and so on. And then down here, when the script is finishing up, this is the variable that it creates to actually make the chart. So this here creates the variable getElementById, which references this canvas up here, the ID canvas. And it's a 2D context. You could change that to 3D and try some of those things out, but 2D charts are really the best way to go. And then it actually gets drawn by creating the new chart, the type of chart, and the option here is responsive. So all this information is readily available on the chart.js site under documentation. And all these different options, the defaults are here, and you can change these things, like the default is responsive false, and that's why it was changed to responsive true in my example. And so you can go through here and pull the different types of charts that you would like to work with. So just to show you what that chart looks like, right here, I actually changed it so that the size would be 100%. Let me show you where I did that. Right up here. Initially it was 50%. I'll put it back to 50%. So you can modify all these things as you're working with these charts to understand how they work and how you can put your own data in them. So as I said, there are samples in the folder for all different types, and you should try all those things out and try to understand what's happening in the JavaScript to actually make it draw the chart. The next one I want to show you is called HighCharts. And HighCharts functions in roughly the same way. If we go to the home page of HighCharts, it costs money for commercial use, but for personal use or educational use, you can use it as much as you want for free. And they have a series of demos here for HighCharts. Just look at the HighCharts area for now. And you can go through here and look at basic line. They have area charts, column and bar charts, pie charts. They have a lot more than chart.js. And they also have the ability for you to edit in a fiddle so that you can come in here and maybe change your categories or change the data associated with each item so that you can get it to make the change. For instance, if we just wanted to change the city to Austin, and we run this, We now see Austin instead of Tokyo there. So you can play with this as much as you want in here. What you would have to do to create the chart based on your adjustments in the JS Fiddle then is to include all your scripts and the place where this is inserted in the HTML, all your JavaScript here that can either go into the HTML page or a separate JavaScript page, and any CSS you add up here. So I'll show you that. Got an example that I created here called HighChart. And you have to have the jQuery library inserted, so you can just get that from the Google API. And you have to have the HighCharts JavaScript file, and it also needs this exporting.js. And these are all from the HighCharts website. And then you actually come down here in the body of the HTML page and draw the chart. So let's save this, and then we'll open this in the browser. And you can see it working. And so they have a lot of really cool features here in HighCharts. The main thing is just understanding first how the files are laid out, what things you need to be linking to in terms of scripts and jQuery, and then modifying the data for your own purposes and being able to put this on a site. And these are responsive as well. And then the last thing I want to show you is the Google Charts API. There are lots of charts that you can look at through the Google Charts API. You've probably seen them on other sites. They have some level of interactivity and automatic legends that go with them. There's a big chart gallery here that you can use to pick a chart, and they give you nice examples of the code that you would use to get started with this chart. So basically you would just grab this code here, put it into a page, and start working with it. So I have that here where I just created a Google chart with just copy and pasted the code from the Google chart gallery and saved it. And we can look at what that looks like in the browser just to make sure that it works. And there it is. That's the one directly from the demonstration on the site. Now I played with it a little bit because I wanted to see if I could pass something from a form into a variable on the page. So first of all, what I did is instead of having numbers here, if we look at how it originally was in the data, it just had the category and then the number. So I changed that to a variable. And I established these variables up here, and I gave them default so that the chart would originally draw with the number 20 in it. I'm looking at the hours per, this says hours per day. We should probably change that to hours per week. So the hours per week that somebody would spend working, eating, commuting, watching TV, and sleeping. Obviously, these are going to change. So I got that set up, and then in here I set up the document get element by ID that would be able to grab the value from the form and then put it into the chart via this variable that I set up here. So that's why it says work equals, and then it's going to get element by ID for the number that's in the form. And that's up here. So I've set up the IDs and names for all these form elements. We set up forms at the beginning of the semester, and a submit. I gave the initial value to be the same thing as the what we have down here, so that when it draws the chart, it actually puts a default value inside the bar so people can start with something. And then when we get the form input, it's actually a string, so we need to be able to parse that into an integer so that it will actually work as a number value, because the chart needs a number to go into it. And so if I save this and come back over here to this one that I called py.html, and if I want to say, well, I spend a lot more than 20 hours a week working, I spend about 60 hours a week working, I do that, and it modifies that, and it gives us the percentage. It automatically calculates that. And maybe I don't spend quite as much time eating, maybe an hour a day eating. And commuting, I probably spend about 4 hours a week commuting. And watching TV, we'll leave it 20. And sleeping per week, I probably need to sleep more than 20 hours a week. Let's say that I get 8 hours times 7 is 56. And actually, we want this to be my weekly activities. We change that up there for the task and the hours per week. So we'll change that, refresh, and we would go back in and put our numbers in that we wanted to have. The longer for sleeping, longer for working. Etc. So you can see how I started modifying and working with the original Google chart, but added ways that I could pass data into it to be able to work with it, to use that API. So that's it. Those are 3 different types of charting packages that I want you to play with this weekend. And I want you to work with your own data, and I want you to make one chart out of each of these packages and understand the differences in each one, and do a blog post about that. So share the work that you do and do a blog post, and we will discuss this next week. We'll have more experience with charts, and then we'll be moving into Fusion tables and getting a demonstration of D3, the JavaScript library.